I've had so many people say to me, how do you do it? How do you get up every day? How do you embrace yourself? And to be honest with you, it's been a challenge. Didn't want to show myself, and I weren't expecting to be so exposed. And it weren't until I see Dirty God for the first time, I didn't see myself, see someone else, but with my scars. That was the moment I thought, there's nothing wrong with me, you know, and that moment saved me. And I want people to watch Silver Haze and have the outlook on life of whatever life throws at you, it's not the end. It's not the end of the world. Keep going. Giving up ain't an option.
Silver Haze tells the story of Frankie, a nurse whose working life supports her chaotic family. As she goes about her day-to-day life, she buries within herself a simmering anger from a past trauma. As a child, Frankie was the victim of an arson attack. She carries so many unanswered questions regarding this incident, as well as a raging hatred towards those who refuse to provide answers. Whilst working as a nurse, she treats Florence, a patient who's been admitted to hospital after trying to kill herself. Florence immediately confronts Frankie with her provocative personality and questions the origins of Frankie's scars. After Florence is discharged, the two bump into each other again and develop a relationship, which takes Frankie by surprise, as she didn't realise she could be attracted to a woman. As their relationship blooms, Florence encourages an anger within Frankie to bubble to the surface. Like many of the films I've been talking about recently, I saw this film at last year's London Film Festival. When I go to a film festival, there are films I know I want to see, the ones that I've heard about that I might be interested in, and then there are just the wild cards, the ones I know nothing about but I saw in the festival guide and it sounded interesting. So I roll the dice on this unknown and see what I get. I think this is a good practice for film festivals because you want variety in what you see, and you're always hoping to discover a hidden gem. In this case, Silver Haze was that hidden gem from my London Film Festival experience. I think the main takeaway from this film is the chance to see a great sense of authenticity on screen. Quite often with Hollywood movies in particular, the casting has been dictated by marketability, which leads to an on-screen romance that lacks chemistry. In this film, the chemistry is very immediately felt between Frankie and Florence. This is aided by the improvisation in the film, which is charged by Florence's provocative nature. Vicky Knight, who plays Frankie, has talked about how they did several improvisational scenes, and Esme Creed-Miles, who plays Florence, ended up apologising a lot because of just how forwardly confronting the improvisation would progress. I think that has manifested due to the characters testing each other's boundaries, but it's also due to a twisted form of flirtation. I also think Florence is a character who carries an almost depressive form of anger, such to scream and shout at the world is to allow oneself to feel most alive. This is key because I think that's something that Frankie understands and can relate to. I think Frankie is ultimately more emotionally mature than Florence, but is allowing herself to connect with Florence's chaotic immaturity because it grants her her own form of freedom, to scream at the world for what it took from you, a powerful emotion that is also twisted with a newfound feeling of love that Frankie didn't even know was possible before she met Florence. When I watched this film, I was impressed by the overall authentic nature of this film, which did make me consider the question, what is the difference between real life and a movie? Well, a movie typically has a beginning, middle and end, whereas life doesn't necessarily have a clear sense of structure. Dialogue in movies can often feel weighted by exposition.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Whereas in real life, it can be a lot more aimless.
At the very beginning, the essence of it was love. I mean, yeah, I know the body falls apart, the packaging.
Got a lot of learning to do.
A movie also introduces you with a core cast of characters, but in real life we meet new people all the time, who may take the focus of our lives in any given moment. What I think Silver Haze does is it examines each of these three concepts and finds a new way to take an authentic route while still holding together as a movie. In Silver Haze, the plot is streamlined to a simple emotional concept of rage and revenge. This allows the story to be more nebulous. It also allows for new characters to pop up unexpectedly who inform Frankie about herself. If you're going into this film thinking that the core of the movie is the love story, that really isn't the case. The love story is certainly a major part of the film, but it takes a back seat as Frankie learns to care for a whole new set of characters. Angela Bruce plays Alice, a foster mum who Frankie meets. The film shifts to allow her to take focus once she is introduced, and Alice's outlook and wisdom has a deep and meaningful impact on Frankie. I thought Angela Bruce acted beautifully in what is clearly a career-defining performance. I mentioned before how the improvisational scenes help define their relationship, but also define the limits of their characters. I'm reminded of Crystal Moselle, the writer-director of Skate Kitchen and the HBO sequel series, Betty's. I was lucky enough to meet Crystal a few years ago. Skate Kitchen is a film that leaves you wrapped in the vibrant personalities of its core cast members. I remember when Crystal Moselle explained the writing process of this film, she described some scenes being dedicated for plot, but equally important were scenes dedicated for what she termed as atmosphere. Atmosphere scenes being those quotidian improvised moments that leave us surprised and excited about their direction. These are scenes that are vital because they're inherently authentic as well as character defining. I quite like the description of scenes being broken down into atmosphere and plot, but I really like it when you're suddenly shown a scene where atmosphere becomes plot. Take this scene from the movie Pariah, which writer-director Dee Ree highlighted in her BAFTA screenwriting lecture.
Listen to me. Are you gonna listen to me?
Dad.
Listen, I gotta go. My daughter's up.
Dad?
Talk to you later, bye.
Who's that?
What you doing up?
Just wanted to talk. Dad, the plate. Don't trash the plate. Aren't you hungry?
No. Ate already.
You ate at work?
Grab some takeout.
Oh, where?
Why ask me so many goddamn questions, girl? What's wrong with you? You don't question me.
Sorry.
Hold up, Alike. Come on back, look. I got patties.
Beef?
And chicken, come on.
In this part of the film, this girl is aware that her father is having an affair and she wants to confront him about it, but the conversation is too painful for her to have, so she takes a couple steps away from the question and instead talks about the dinner plate. As Dee Ree puts it,
right in the beginning of the scene where he throws away the plate. You know, Alike is not that concerned about her mother's, Tupperware. I mean, she's more concerned about the marriage. So it's like, Dad, you're throwing away the plate. It's more like, Dad, you're throwing away us. Or Dad, you're throwing away the marriage. Or Dad, you're throwing away the relationship. You know, don't you want the relationship? And so that's an example of like an object kind of standing in for like the real thing that the character wants to talk about.
this is subtext. So this is a fantastic scene overall because it's subtext, atmosphere and plot all at the same time. These characters want to discuss a truth, but also don't want to because they're afraid of a resulting trauma that could change their entire lives. Silver Haze, by comparison, is post-trauma, so it almost has to take an opposing approach. Frankie and Florence have already had their worlds changed. Frankie bears the scars of her trauma on her body and openly confronts conversations about it. Florence's past trauma is psychological, so she explodes with a chaotic, vibrant personality that is showcasing her own scars. Their journey, or plot, is of course to head backwards to unravel their past, but it's also an emotional one. The world of Silver Haze is a harsh one, with grit, but ultimately the film is about how these characters learn to live and love in spite of this. Can you learn to live and forgive, considering your friends, your family, your enemy, and ultimately yourself? This is a film about forgiveness. When reviews of this film emerge, comparisons to other films labelled as social realism dramas will likely surface. I can see the potential for such parallels, and the film might pair intriguingly with Andrea Arnold's exceptional work Red Road, which also delves into a woman seeking revenge for a past trauma. However, Red Road distinguishes itself by exploring manipulative love as a means to seek revenge. Despite potential connections, Silver Haze stands independently. I'm concerned of a reductive nature of discussion around British contemporary dramas, often dismissed with a casual "we've already seen that story." I find this perspective limiting, especially when considering the diversity of vibrant personalities and differing perspectives within the broader genre. Unlike other genres which continue to be explored without prejudice, I worry about the impact of a reductive bias on film development, commissioners and reviewers. As an audience member, watching a film like Silver Haze reveals authenticity, chemistry and emotion. Once the film captivates you, preconceived expectations about genre fade away and the film captures your whole heart. I think the success of this film rests on the shoulders of its key performances. Esme Creed-Miles is an actress who first caught my eye in Sophie Littman's deliciously Lynchian short film Sudden Light.
I keep feeling like we're walking in circles.
That film is entirely about being lost in your own anxiety and solely rests on Esme's performance. As for Vicky Knight, she had previously worked with Sacha Polak, the director of Silver Haze, on the movie Dirty God. In her own words, she was street casted for that film. And it's clear that her and director Sacha Polak have built an intimate rapport that allows them to go way more personal for Silver Haze. I do kind of feel Vicky Knight might as well get a co-writing credit for this film, because Silver Haze is deeply personal. Vicky's scars are real, and she is also the victim of an arson attack. She also works as a nurse outside of acting, and her real siblings are playing her siblings in the film. I think it's really easy to be dismissive of street cast actors turning professional, but I think there's a really magical balance between authenticity and performance that can only happen when you see someone with real life experience do a knockout job in acting. I think that's the case with the cowboy Brady Jandreau in Chloe Zhao's film The Rider, and a more recent example of this is Lola Campbell in Charlotte Regan's debut, Scrapper. I found Vicky Knight's performance to be very moving, so much so that I gave her a hug at the end of our screening. I really hope we get to see many more films from her in the future. Silver Haze is screening as part of this year's BFI Flare Film Festival, but if you can't make that screening, fear not, because the BFI plan to distribute the film in cinemas in the UK and Ireland on the 29th of March. So do keep a lookout for screenings near you. If you like this video, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like, as it's genuinely the most effective way of telling me that you liked it, and I really appreciate it. Making videos like this one really isn't easy, but if there's an audience out there watching, I feel so motivated to keep chatting about film. So please consider subscribing. Are you planning on seeing Silver Haze? Does it remind you of any other films you'd recommend to me? Let me know in the comment section below. I read all the comments and I try to respond to as many as I can. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.